This is a cautionary tale of what happens when you put too much faith in a gacha game. This is a tale of the stupidest thing ever done in Genshin Impact, shared so you can learn from my mistakes. This is disaster.
Hello friends, my name is Uglyfish, and in my last video I swapped all my bad artifacts for a chance at a better goblet for Rosaria, and I succeeded in getting a marginally better cryo damage goblet, emphasis on marginally. And then I got greedy, because as I've said many times, Rosie here isn't built particularly well. She's on the best artifacts I had at the time, very good flower, decent plume, and that was enough for me to get to floor 12 of Spiral Abyss, and so I stuck with it. But as we can see, she could do with some improvement, and so I had decided to swap out even more of my artifacts. I was swapping from my 1,484 artifacts until I got either a good circlet or a good sans. I was looking for crit value, EM and ER, but I was happy to give up EM or ER for attack percentage if it came to it. I'd be sweeping through my artifacts, swapping any with defense or healing as a main stat, any with doubled up substats, and then if it came to it, I would be being ruthless and getting rid of anything with defense as substat and anything without a crit substat. But it probably wouldn't come to that. And so I headed to Mondstadt, lucky Mondstadt, and it was time to swap. I had all my fingers crossed for myself, and 39 artifacts later, I had been blessed with rubbish. Oh, that one wasn't that bad actually. Not for Rosaria, but it could be an off-piece for someone. But there was nothing else there for me, so I went again. I swept through until I had another 39 artifacts to swap, and I crossed my fingers for sans and circlets. And again, I got some good pieces. I got a very promising AR sans, which could be an option, but I still had so many artifacts, I could just keep swapping. And friends, I swapped. And I swapped. And I swapped. And I kept swapping. And at about 500 artifacts, I realised that I was looking at the same remaining artifacts again and again, and I realised I had made a horrible mistake, one that you will have already worked out. 1,484 artifacts was obviously not the amount of swappable artifacts I had. That included my 1, 2, 3 and 4 star artifacts. What I actually had was a much smaller pool of artifacts to swap. I had maybe about half of what I thought I'd started with. And in my desperation to get what I'd set out to get, I became even more ruthless with what I would swap. If it wasn't a perfect artifact, it was gone. Into the Strongbox in the hopes of getting something for Rosaria, because no other character mattered anymore. Crimson Witch artifacts, gone. Tenacity artifacts, gone. Wanderers, gone. Into the Strongbox until I had swapped 897 artifacts. I had filled the Strongbox 23 times. And from that I'd got one circlet. One decent circlet. Crit damage main and 4 substats already, ER, EM, crit rate and flat attack. 4 substats already meant every roll would boost a substat, there would be no waste, and I believed that Genshin Impact owed me. All it had to do was roll into crit rate twice to be a swap, or even just a double roll once, and with every 4 levels gaining me a substat boost, statistically it would probably happen. And also, as far as I was concerned, Genshin owed me good rolls because my swaps had been so bad, but that is gambler's fallacy. The belief that past events will influence these events, and because I'd had bad luck before, I believed I was owed some good luck, and because my last artifact had rolled so badly, my cryo damage goblet from the previous video, this artifact would surely roll well. Surely 2 artifacts on the bounce couldn't roll badly for me. Also, I'd watched Genshin streamers do something similar and they all rolled really well, so obviously that would mean I would too. Because apparently, in my head, that is how it works. But by level 12, crit rate hadn't seen an increase, and I fell for even more gambler's fallacy. Surely Surely now it would roll into crit rate because it was crit rate's turn to be rolled into, but that is not how it works. Past events don't influence this one, and so at level 20, my artifact had gained attack and EM, but no ER, and definitely no crit rate. Swapping to it would actually lose me 4.3% crit rate. It wasn't better than my current circlet. It wasn't even as good. It was worse. And I should have stopped there. That is where I should have stopped. I should have realised the error of my ways and put the controller down. What I did instead was hunt for more artifacts to swap because, you guessed it, I thought I was owed good artifacts. I used what little remaining common sense I had and made the very sensible decision to go to the Blizzard Strayer domain, increasing my chances of getting a good piece for Rosaria. If the Strongbox hadn't delivered, the domain itself surely would. So I fired up my pyro team. Haha. And I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought. Is that 5 forts? 5 condensed resin brought me no luck. And seeing as I hadn't stopped earlier, this is where I should have stopped. I should have realised the error of my ways and put the controller down and touched some grass. Pause the video if you want and comment what you think I did instead, or just shout it out loud, it's up to you. I'll wait. If you guessed spend half your fragile resin, you guessed right. Fragile resin. That very limited and useful resource, which I should have been saving for Hu Tao. Instead, in total, I ended up using 11. And then I would condense them, and then I would go back to the domain, and I fought, and I fought, and I fought. And in between fighting, whenever I could, I went back to the Strongbox and swapped out anything I'd got from the domain that wasn't worth it, in my opinion. And when the Strongbox continued to let me down, I would just condense more resin and go back to the domain. And then finally, after 2 days of trying for an artifact, I gave up. Well, I sort of gave up because I must be owed something good by now, surely. And I had that sans with the potential that I'd got earlier. It wasn't perfect, but if it rolled crit rate as a 4th stat, I was there and this would have all been worth it. All that pain, all that resin, and so I crossed my fingers and I got to level 4. Okay, never mind. Plan B. Plan B. Rosaria has a godly flower. It is a beautiful artifact, but it is her off-piece. I have amazing circlets and sands that aren't Blizzard Strayer, and so the solution was suddenly simple. Swap out her flower for a Blizzard Strayer one, get a new off-piece. And I had 2 potential flowers. Both only had 3 substats, but they were promising substats. EM, ER and crit rate on both. They just needed crit damage, and I could do it. The first one was a dud. Level 4 brought it attack. A good stat, but not good enough, and so I pinned my hopes, all my hopes, onto this flower. This was the moment I needed. I'd been through the Strongbox at least 40 times. I'd used my precious resin up. I'd spent more. My legs hurt from sitting down. This was it. This was the moment.